Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Growing Up with Godzilla. My name is Donny Winter, and this is my show where I have conversations with Godzilla fans about how they've grown with the character and the franchise over time. We are in season 2, and I've had the honor of not only having a lot of returning guests, but also some new guests joining me. Today's episode, I am featuring a returning guest, the iconic Stream of Awareness on YouTube who goes by Cindy. So without further ado, welcome Cindy. Hello. Cindy's doing some quality research for the Monarch organization.
You're not supposed to know about that.
Oh. Hello, my dear. How are you doing? It's good to see you.
Hey. Oh, I'm good. I'm just geeking it up. I've been stoked about this ever since you're like, you want to come back in? And I'm like, oh yeah, bring me to your house.
Absolutely, right? It's like we're just sitting in the same room together having a conversation. We're riding the high of the new Godzilla news as well, which we're really excited about, right? So the new design of Godzilla has been revealed for the upcoming film Godzilla -1. Let us do a formal, quick little reaction to him. There he is.
He's so cute.
Oh my goodness. So,
he's so cute.
Such
He's
a chunk.
Baby.
Like, I love me a chunk. And the truth is, I feel like he kind of has like Heisei Godzilla and Godzilla 2000 characteristics, which we both know that Heisei Godzilla is quite possibly our favorite Godzilla, right?
Yeah, he's my baby. Heisei Godzilla, he is my son. He is my baby. I love him. Monster vs. Godzilla back here behind me. This is my husband, who I adore very much right here.
So, P.S., everyone, I also need to direct you to Cindy's Twitter. Cindy's Twitter is at Gojira's Spouse, which I absolutely am obsessed with. Go give Cindy a follow, everyone.
Yeah, come follow me, but not if you're under 18, because some of my tweets can be quite dirty. Okay. Because I post absurd Godzilla thirst tweets sometimes just to be ridiculous, because that's how I am. I'm ridiculous.
But that's one of the many reasons why I love you.
Oh, I love you too.
So, you know me, I like to start things out with probably the most serious question that I could possibly think of, because I'm an overdramatic person. So, being that you're a returning guest, I have a whole new set of questions for people who return that, in my opinion, delve a little bit deeper than we did in like our first conversation. So my question for you, Cindy, is what has Godzilla changed for you as a Godzilla fan or what has changed for you as a Godzilla fan over the years? Meaning like perspectives, impressions of characters, etc.
The understanding of the character of Godzilla, it's like the longer I watch his movies, especially like the Heisei era, the more I feel like he's a character that people don't always fully understand, that he's a very traumatized character. Because let's go back to the very first Godzilla movie from 1954. What is the first thing he does? He sinks a fishing boat, right?
Mm-hmm.
That fishing boat, that's how the movie opens.
Yeah.
Well, when you think of the character and you look back in time, he was created by the Bikini Atoll bomb test, right?
Yeah.
So imagine, he was under the water. Well, what does he see when he looks up? As this pain is happening, he sees the boats floating around, right?
Yeah.
So he sees a boat and he just goes right back to that trauma. And so, of course, he's going to make it go away. And so, like, I've just come to understand that he's a very traumatized character. That he flashes back, I think. I don't think he has any control of that. You flash a bright light in his face, he's going to freak out and destroy it. Because now he's big and strong and he can.
I don't think we do that enough, right? Like we frequently see Godzilla films, but Godzilla is usually the aggressor, or it's so far removed from Godzilla's point of view that we can't literally think about what the experience is like from Godzilla's perspective, right? Imagine being a dinosaur left over, from ancient times, being irradiated, going through like the pain of forced evolution, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then trying to make sense of the world for the sake of just thriving in it, for the sake of just existing in this new state of being that's arguably painful, arguably very isolating, right? So, like,
Mm-hmm.
Godzilla as a trauma, like, as a character who has experienced trauma, that is, ooh,
Especially Heisei Godzilla. I'll go delve into that as we talk more, but like, just think of what Heisei Godzilla goes through, and then Godzilla versus Destroya. He is just trapped in that because I think he knows that something bad is happening, but imagine he's just re-traumatized, and throughout that whole movie, he's maddened by pain. I mean, he's
mm-hmm,
he's acting like an autistic person who is like in some kind of pain. Like when I have an ear infection, I'm completely different than how I am right now, or something like that. Or if I'm having
mm-hmm,
period cramps, I could be really different than how I am because it hurts.
right,
And he's
yeah.
just destroying everything in his path because it hurts.
That's, I mean, that's an interesting juxtaposition too, because like, even so, like, from your perspective, you know what's going on. Our question is, does Godzilla, right? Does Godzilla,
Yeah.
like, like, he might be aware that something's happening, but does he understand what's happening? Like, I feel like there is a level of fear probably in that mentality because there is that lack of knowledge on his part, which I feel like makes him an even more sympathetic character. At least that's
Yeah.
just me.
Yeah, but it's like he knows it hurts, and maybe he thinks that it's happening again. And it kind of is, because I mean, look what happens at the end of that movie. So, like, that's a hard movie for me to watch because of that. Because
Yeah.
I'm thinking of what he's thinking, and I'm hurting with him. So, like, that's a
Yeah.
hard movie to watch for me.
No, absolutely. It's a hard movie for me to watch too. Like I might watch, like, I don't think I've watched it in like a few years now that I think about it, because like like experiencing his death is just such a, and then of course on top of that he's dealing with the grief of his child dying on top of it. Like, it's just, there's a lot of emotional things to unpack in that film.
Yeah, and then so when we got King of the Monsters and I saw Burning Godzilla, I literally freaked out in the theater because I thought we were going to see that again. And thank God we didn't.
Oh
Spoiler
yeah.
for whoever is living under a rock, but it was a much cooler ending. Actually, it was hotter. It was very hot, but
Quite literally.
it was
uh,
nuclear.
It was absolutely nuclear. I think that King of the Monsters did a good job, like, kind of. I don't think that film should have replicated what Godzilla versus Destroya did, because that was such a poignant end to a film, right? That I think them trying to like replicate it would have been very. It would have been like stepping over the line of too much fan service, I think, because there's a risk you run if you do fan service. You could do it well, or you could do it so much like the original that it kind of fizzles out like a sad little firework, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they took it and transformed Burning Godzilla and, the circumstances around Burning Godzilla into something drastically different, which I thought was super interesting. So,
Yeah, and I just liked how it was done. I
me
really, he
too.
looks so cool.
Well,
Actually, no, he looks hot.
so let's talk about headcanons for a second.
Oh my god, I've got headcanons for Heisei Godzilla that are like 20 years old. More
Oh
than
my god.
20 years old.
So
'Cause I'm
for
an old
those
fart.
of you, well, you're not an old, you're youthful as hell in my opinion. So for those of you who do not know, well, Cindy and I have been friends for like almost 20 years now, right? Like, it's been like a very long time.
Yeah.
And we met initially and bonded through writing Godzilla fan fiction. So like, we have spent so many years like creating our own expanded universes, like, and we've developed like these, crucial headcanons of featuring these characters that have just remained with us throughout the years. So let's talk about them. I'm like, because like the truth is, like, fan fiction, I think, has a way of enhancing the story by connecting
Mm-hmm.
it to our histories and our interpretations of said story, right? So
Mm-hmm.
share some of yours.
Well, I just want to preface this by saying that my headcanons, I tend to have a lot of disability headcanons for characters, and a lot of people got mad at me on Tumblr about this. And, I'm just like, whatever, just go away if you're going to be mad about it. But I headcanon Heisei Godzilla as being multiply disabled in a way
Mm-hmm.
that it kind of doesn't get in his way because he's so dang big that he doesn't need a ramp. He's just going to step on the building. But like if he was our size, he would be significantly, struggling just
Mm-hmm.
because see what goes on inside of my head. Oh God, I'm gonna go full autism mode. You ready?
I'm ready. I
Okay.
love it.
So Heisei Godzilla was born or hatched with a heart defect. The four-chambered heart didn't quite close off in the septum, so ventricular septal defect in his
Mm-hmm.
heart, and it affected his brain as he was forming in his egg. So he kind of came out with, I don't want to call it cerebral palsy because I don't think he has a cerebral cortex, but it's something like it. And when he was just a normal Godzillasaur and a little baby, he could really just barely move. His body was just so stiff because it was the spastic kind, and that makes your body stiff. So, but when the mutation happened to him, he was close to dying of heart failure. So his
Mm-hmm.
heart was just getting tired and not working, but the mutation happened. And now, like, his body just is always regenerating, always healing. So, like, that damage is kind of just stuck, and
Yeah.
like the brain damage from not enough oxygen. So, like, Heisei Godzilla, he still has, I call it the palsy when it's his narrative, because that's what he would say if he had a word for it, but
Mm-hmm.
his palsy. So like he'll have like clonus for like his, because it's like on the Cybot Godzilla. Remember how he
Mm-hmm.
would twitch, So like I
Yeah.
worked the stiffness of the suits into the character. So
Yeah. Oh, that's
like
interesting.
so like Godzilla, he can't do this with his arms. His arms go up here. But like just he knows which muscles to activate to fight, and that's why he's so strong. He uses them like a bow and arrow. So, like, when
Yeah.
he's throwing Destroy Aggregate pieces and when he's throwing Mecha Godzilla, he's using his disability to his advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, his muscles do things that normal muscles don't do because his brain doesn't work like ours. And he also
Mm-hmm.
does not experience fear like we do.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing to trigger his fear, because, he's got, like, an acquired brain injury on top of it because of the way he developed. So he doesn't feel fear like we do. Like when we get scared, we're like, oh my God. He notices that his heart's pounding and he gets upset. He gets into a state of like vigilance, but he doesn't understand that it's fear. And he just gets mad and he starts trashing things.
Mm-hmm.
So like what triggers the fear is memories of the mutation process. And
Mm-hmm.
since Heisei Godzilla mutated under the ocean because of the whole time travel stuff with King Ghidorah and all that,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't just a one and done deal. It took time. And he was having seizures under the water. He was eating the dirt because he was throwing up blood and he just wanted it to stop. He couldn't see or hear for a while because those parts of his brain shut down. So if you put him in the dark, he will freak out. He will get scared. If you flash a light in his face, he will freak out and he will feel the fear because that's what
Mm-hmm.
triggers it. But otherwise, it's like his brain. It's like his equivalent to an amygdala is not connected properly.
Mm-hmm.
So like you have to hit the right wiring to set it off, because otherwise you challenge him, he will just keep challenging you, and he will keep fighting until either he's defeated or he has defeated you. He does not have the sense of I gotta run away and get out of here. He does not
Mm-hmm.
get that sense at all. And if I ever get my
Wow.
shrinking project story done, we see that in action because he's not running scared from Goro, the bad guy in the story. He's not running scared. He sees that he's gigantic compared to him, and he's like, "What the hell do you want from me? What do you want? You challenging me? Come on!" That's Godzilla's basic reaction. Is not, "Oh
So
my God, big." It's, "What do you want?"
what you've done, like with this headcanon, and so like I know a lot about the story of the Shrinking Project because of course, again, we've been friends for a million years. Um, but like you have taken so many aspects of Godzilla that we would not have otherwise thought of, and you've expanded them to create a very instinctively, intellectually conscious creature,
Mm-hmm.
which I think does Godzilla justice. Like I think that, I mean, Godzilla is in some way conscious of the world around him, right? So
Mm-hmm.
why should we not expand and try to understand that consciousness through the storytelling just a little bit? That's one thing I think that the films have not super duperly bridged into yet. We get like
Mm-hmm.
some moments, right? Like remember the scene in Godzilla versus King Ghidorah when Godzilla literally is looking at what was his name, Shindo,
Shindo.
through like the window, and they literally have like this shared memory experience. Like that is one of those moments that I'm talking about. And mind you, like Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah is not one of my favorite Godzilla films by any stretch of the imagination, but that one scene right there made Godzilla sympathetic, and I loved it.
Mm. That one scene actually did a whole lot of, getting me to explore his character and his feelings. And also those books, like the Mark Cerasini and the Scott Sinson, I think it is. I'm not sure how to
Mm-hmm.
say his name, but the young adult books. Because I saw
Yeah,
Godzilla on the cover and I just started grabbing them off the shelves like a long time ago. And those books are like, oh hey, you can write from Godzilla's point of view because they have scenes in there that are from the monster's points of view. They're good books. They're kind of like the Animorphs books, but there's less of them. I
yeah.
love Animorphs. But anyway,
So okay, so going back to like headcanon stuff. So when I saw Godzilla King of the Monsters, and I saw that Mothra and Godzilla had a symbiotic relationship, spanning back millions of years, I was just like, I've written that before. Like, most of my fanfics from the early to mid 2000s had to do with Godzilla and Mothra having like this deep friendship and this deep mutual respect and connection to one another. So I was just like in my like paranoid brain, I was just like, Mike Doherty, were you reading my fanfics? Were you getting ideas? But if so, that's a compliment. I can't remember if we mentioned in the last episode that Mike Doherty shared one of your fanfics on Twitter. Do you want to
no,
talk
we
about it
didn't.
again
We
really
didn't.
quick? Let's talk
I
about
don't
it.
think we did. I don't think we did. But am I allowed to brag?
Absolutely. You deserve to brag about that. Are you kidding
Um,
me?
but no. What happened is that I wrote this MonsterVerse Godzilla fanfic called "Song of the Tiny Ones," and it's from Godzilla's perspective. It's the scene when Serizawa goes down with the nuke and when Godzilla
Mhm.
surfaces and all that stuff. And I made like a video where I read it, and people are saying I have a soothing voice, and I'm like, okay.
You do.
But anyway, oh, that's so nice. Anyway, but there was like a watch along, and I just threw the video into one of the threads where everybody was talking because I just thought nobody's gonna see this. And all of a sudden, I find a DM from Mike Doherty the next morning. He'd like put it in there at like 2, 3 in the morning. I don't know. I don't know where he was in the world, but he was sure up late. But, telling me that he just wanted to say that he thought that the story was just excellent. And he sent me stuff because he asked for my address. And I normally don't do that. But I'm like, this is Mike Doherty. And he just noticed me. So, like, he sent me this Monarch mug for one of the things. There's nothing in it. I was just drinking out of it as a joke, just. But he gave me a little Mothra pin.
Oh my goodness. Can you hold up the pin one more time? You kind of froze for a second. That is so cute.
She's so tiny. Look how small she is. Like she's as small as my finger.
Oh my
And
goodness.
then he gave me a basically a copy of the Serizawa book from the film. it's a book to write in, it's blank.
It's like a journal, right?
Yeah, it's like there's nothing in it. I mean, I've put in like notes in it for my own Godzilla stuff, but I'm not going to share them. They're top secret, just like Monarch.
As they
But it
should be, right?
but it looks like Serizawa's book from the movie.
It does.
Yeah, it's like a copy of the film prop. It's kind of like a leathery cover. It's very nicely made. It's not a cheapy little.
I am
And then
just like,
he
oh my
sent me a
goodness.
letter. He sent me a letter with it. Like here's the letter, and like if I can, there's this signature on it, just so you can see.
Oh, thanks again for your amazing story. Wow. That Please use this enclosed notebook to continue your fantastic writing and the mug to keep you warm and caffeinated. Long live the king. That makes me want to cry.
I know. I was like screaming when I opened the box and I saw all the stuff in it. I was like, "Oh my god, did this really
Let me
happen?"
like as a fellow fan fiction writer, like I feel like fan fiction is just trashed on all the time, right? But the truth is some of the most beautiful, thought-provoking stories can come from fan fiction. And the
Mm-hmm.
truth is, had I not read a lot of your work, when I was at that point in my life, I would never have even gone on to continue writing as I do now. So, like, I think just being able to have a beautiful thing that you've put into the world recognized by someone who has that level of exposure, and he directed a Godzilla film, for heaven's sake, acknowledge it. Like, that is huge. That is so unbelievably huge. Thinking
I
back on it now,
know.
like, how do you feel about this?
I keep these things where I can see them all the time, except for the book. I don't want it to get dusty, so I have it under some things so that it's safe and tucked away. But if
Mhm.
I get an idea for something that I might put into future stories, I'll just jot it down in the book. And I'm not a coffee drinker though, but the caffeinated thing made me laugh because sometimes I do drink tea. Sometimes if I can find it, but like I have the letter, like I'll leave the letter in the mug sitting up so that I can see it. I could just look up and see his signature on it. But what really tickled me is like he went to the thread where I posted that thing because it's about where it's like Godzilla can hear our bioacoustics and he can read our intentions. So like when a bunch of people get together and it's like a choir, it sounds like a choir to him, like some unearthly choir of humans and human need and human want. And it's like, and then
Wow.
he just walks in and he goes, "Well, I declare this canon," and I'm like, "Oh crap!"
He declared your story canon
I
in the
know. I'm like,
Monsterverse.
"Oh my god!" Like, pardon my French, but holy shit.
So, you know me. I like to have a controversial question from time to time, right?
Hmm.
Which largely unpopular Godzilla film is your guilty pleasure?
Are you ready for a very autistic answer?
I'm always ready for one of those.
Um, I actually do not understand the concept of a guilty pleasure, but here's how I'm going to answer that question though. Because the way I see it, if it's not harming anybody, and if it's something that's just weird but it's not harming anybody, I don't see why something should be a guilty pleasure. If somebody wants to wear latex underwear, like whatever, that's your thing. You like to be sweaty down there, fine, whatever. It's like, so like if somebody is if somebody is like talking about a Godzilla movie they really enjoy, and you get these fans that walk into they're gushing, and I just picture it as some guy with like the pipe in his mouth, the monocle on his eye, and the fedora on his head, walking in going, "Well, actually, here's why this movie is bad, and here is why you are a piece of trash for liking it." And I just want to walk up to these people that do this, that shame people for what they love until they don't want to love it anymore. I want to take those people and I want to say, take the pipe out of your mouth, take the monocle off your eye, take the fedora off your head, roll them up in a ball, shove them up your ass, sit down, shut up, and leave people alone. Let people love things. That would be my reaction. So, like, if there's a Godzilla movie on TV, I'm gonna sit and watch. I don't care if it's one of the goofy old ones or a recent one. It's Godzilla. I'm gonna watch it.
I love that. Perfect answer, in my opinion. Well, I have an even more controversial question for you now. Are you ready for that?
Yes.
What is your unpopular or controversial Godzilla opinion?
Well, here comes another autistic answer. But I think a lot of people tend to kind of forget the very serious history behind Godzilla. You know, Ishiro Honda, Tomoyuki Tanaka, and Eiji Tsuburaya, they looked at what happened from Hiroshima, and they took all this collective trauma of Japan and they created this living entity to represent their pain. And like, when you look at the horror of what that atomic bomb did, I'm probably going to get emotional, so just bear with me. Have you ever seen the anime Barefoot Gen?
No.
Well, it's a movie about the atomic bomb on Hiroshima, and they have a way to, in the movie, they stop time so that you see all the horrible things this bomb did, while at the same time you get the impression that it happened in a minute. Because he's tossing a rock up and down and he drops it. And as he bends down to pick it up, you see the flash of light, that happens. And then it's like time slows down. So you can see the people disintegrating.
Wow.
And there's this one, here it comes. There's this one. It's like when the people disintegrate, they don't just turn into ash. You see their bodies basically desiccating.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this one that it's a mom and she has her baby on her back, in one of those carrying thingies. I don't know what they're called. But the baby starts screaming as the flash of light starts turning them into nothing. And when the baby falls off, she tries to cover this little baby up. They're dying, and she is trying to cover this little baby up. And I think of 1954 with "We're Gonna Be With Your Daddy in a Little While." Remember that scene?
Yeah. Wow.
It,
Yeah.
it has that feeling to it, and it's like that is the pain that these men turned into Godzilla. And it's a trauma dump story. It's a trauma dump. And there are people out there that feel like you shouldn't portray bad things. There are some people that think if you portray a bad thing, you must endorse that bad thing. And like in fandom spaces especially, there's so much harassment about people writing transgressive stuff, and like Godzilla is extremely transgressive, and especially when Serizawa goes down with the oxygen destroyer, he destroys his notes. There is such a never again message to it. And I know that the Jewish population can understand never again because they have their own never again.
Yeah.
And it should be the same with nuclear weapons, but we keep playing with them like they're toys. And it's like, what part of never again do people not understand? And that's a part of Godzilla's history that I think a lot of people, they kind of compartmentalize it away from the ooh, big cool monster part. And so like that history gets lost. And
Yeah.
I mean, GMK, that movie really kind of captures hey, look what happens when you forget. We shouldn't forget. We should look at the horror in the eyes. I mean, look at Godzilla. He is a walking keloid scar. They're not letting us forget, but some people sure want to try.
Absolutely.
And there's some people that are like, well, you don't need to talk about this. We know this. It's like, but do you?
You can be adjacently aware of something, but not know the significance or the meaning behind it. Like
exactly.
Godzilla, like is unpalatable and uncomfortable as it is to look at history and to look at the atrocities that have happened, right? Like think of those people who've been directly impacted by those atrocities, right? Like they don't have the
Exactly.
luxury of withdrawing from them or not acknowledging them. Whereas, like, that's why these stories are so significant, because they help keep those of us who have not had that direct impact, helps us understand what happened, why it was so significant, the lingering trauma and effect that it has on people. So, no, I think that's a very thought-provoking and powerful perspective on that.
Yeah, it is. And just, the idea that, as big and scary as Godzilla is, he is also a victim of this because he didn't choose to be that. We made him that. We made
Absolutely.
him. I'm talking in the universe, obviously, but in a sense, we made him too. Those three dudes, they just got together and just thought, well, what if the Lucky Dragon and the hydrogen bomb tests did this? And we got a beloved franchise out of it. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
grateful for them. But as much as I love Godzilla, if I could go back in history and stop that bomb and stop all the pain, I don't know what kind of world we would be in, but we don't need nukes in this world. And if
Mm-hmm.
that meant trading Godzilla, as much as I love him, I would rather there be a world where people aren't dying so horribly,
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
because of the war. Because it's also about war. It's not just nukes, it's war,
Mm-hmm.
pollution and all these things.
Yeah, like if you look at
So,
the Godzilla franchise as a whole, like it creates commentary on so many different things, right? So,
I
and I
know.
think, yeah, and I just, no, like that really resonated with me 100%. So,
Yeah, and then you got the people that go, don't make it political. And it's like, shut up.
it's like, it's always been political, honey. Like, darling, calm down.
Really.
So, if given the power, ooh, if given the power, what Godzilla film would you want to create, or what direction would you take the Godzilla franchise?
I would love to take my Shizilla story and make that a movie. Because,
Mm,
we've seen so many instances where Godzilla is just raging and destroying, and why can't we see him love too? Because we kind of see him love, with Minya and with Baby.
yeah.
We see that. I mean, that one scene in Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2 when he first sees Baby and he's like blinking really slow and he's roaring quiet. He's trying not to scare him, and Baby gets scared, and it's like it hurts Godzilla's feelings because he's like, "I was like you once. This happened to me. I was not always like this. Just please listen to me." And of course, Miki helped, but to take Shizilla and just to explore the ethics of screwing around with things you don't really understand, because Shizilla is a story about, you don't know who you're going to hurt when you're playing God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You
you could
know,
hurt the
it,
something or someone you least expect, right? Being that I've read the story before, like I think that it would be a phenomenal film adaptation.
yeah, and the thing about Shizilla too is that, she was created for the Heisei era, so I picture her as looking Heisei. But you could really put her in any one of them, and she would fit in. You just kind of have to adjust how she looks, but
Yeah,
it would be the same, pretty much. Godzilla's personality kind of varies from incarnation to incarnation, but I could adjust her for that too.
that's the beauty of fan fiction, right? I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as a character, Shizilla is she's kind of shy. She's the one that will run away if you start shooting at her, and Godzilla's gonna be like, ah, and she's like, ugh. She'll hide behind him, kind of. Unless you hit her in the face, and then she'll start getting mad, and
Oh,
she'll be
then
like, not
that,
my
well, that
face!
would make anybody mad, right? So, now looking back, which scene in a Godzilla film shook your younger self, and does it still have the same impact on you?
Oh, I have a couple. But um, the first one that I can remember shaking me, this one might be kind of odd, but it's when 1954, when he rips the clock off of the building, when he knocks
Mm-hmm.
it down. I can't remember the name of that building, but it's a specific building, but it has the clock on it, and he rips it down. But he's roaring at the clock because I'm pretty sure the ringing is hurting his ears. I relate, but just the fury in the way he did that. Like, I'd seen Godzilla trashing things before, but just the fury behind that specific destruction, it's just like he really hates that clock. Jeez. But it just like it startled me. And then the end of the movie, the way they get rid of him with the action destroyer, I was really upset about what happened to him, even though I knew it was necessary. That upset me. It was just really
Mm.
sad because even as a little 7-year-old kid, I understood that he didn't ask for this.
Yeah.
And it's not like we could talk to him and go, hey, you're stepping on your buildings, you're killing people, can you stop? You couldn't do that. You couldn't make him understand. And the next one, so we're on number 2, um, Godzilla versus a smog monster. When he flies over and the people start like decomposing.
Oh God, that was scary.
Oh, that scared me as a kid. But I think because it wasn't all shiny and slimy, it didn't gross me out. It was just like, oh my god, that's horrific. Oh, holy crap. I did turn away and kind of cry a little bit because I was like, oh my god, they hurt. And they're just dead and they're just disintegrating and oh my god, and then I was like, you better kill him, Godzilla. I was screaming at my TV. I'm like, you better kill him, Godzilla. But that's just the first time I saw it shook me. And now I understand what it is. But at the
I don't
time,
think we
I was
ever
a kid.
saw. I don't think we ever saw such like visceral death in a Godzilla film until that film,
Oh yeah,
which is
like
kind of
that
like
was pretty.
mind blowing. Yeah, that's kind of mind blowing.
The bleeding neck in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla, that had me
Oh,
crying because
yep.
like
I sobbed over that too.
because I'm like those are arteries have been burst. Okay, he's gonna die, but he didn't. Um, the meltdown in Godzilla versus Destroya, every single time, it absolutely wrecks me. It's like there is no getting used to that one.
Oh, for
I mean,
me. Oh my God, for me.
yeah.
And I just thought about this one in Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla 2 when Mickey is basically forced to be the one to kill Godzilla. Heart wrenching.
Oh yeah,
Heart
do as you're
wrenching.
told.
Because through that entire series, like you kind of like sympathize with Mickey and her sympathy for Godzilla, right? So like when you see her being forced by the military to have to do this for the greater good, like that's just oh my God. Ooh,
I felt
that
so
gets
bad
me.
for her. I felt so bad for her in that movie. Just I feel so bad for her character in general, just because it's like she's being pushed into all these things because of her talent and not necessarily because of who she is. It's like in the Shrinking
Yeah.
Project, she's angry about that and she's like, I feel like a tool and not a person. That's kind of, but that's getting off track here.
No, no,
But
no. I love that. So, speaking of Miki Sagusa, the actress Megumi Odaka just revealed that there is a special project that is going to revive Miki Sagusa in the future. Which Cindy, when I saw that, I almost sobbed, peed, everything, because you know that like Miki Sagusa is like my favorite character. She's so
I
phenomenal.
love her. I love her so much. I was crying, screaming, throwing up. I want to see
everything,
Miki come
everything.
back.
Everything
Every
dramatic that I could possibly do, I did. So final question for you, my dear.
Mhm.
If a person wants to get their friends into Godzilla, what advice do you have for them to start out?
Actually, I have a very easy answer for this. It's just put a movie on and go for it. Because it's like, if you try to get them into the history, it's like trying to get somebody into Doctor Who. If you tell them to start at the very first episode from 1963, that show is going to be 60 years old this year. On the 23rd of November, it will be 60 years
Mhm.
old of Doctor Who. But I mean, Whovian, hello.
Wow.
Look at my poster.
You're a Doctor Who fan. What? But I have the same response for people who are like wanting to get into Star Trek too, because like that's like another huge franchise that's like a lot to absorb.
Yeah, but it's like pick a movie and start, and it doesn't matter if it's one of the goofy ones or one of the serious ones, but just also introduce them to the history of Godzilla and like the whys and the hows behind his creation, because I feel like people need to know that, and they need to know that he is a product of a horrible thing that happened. Like back to my other answer before of, atomic weaponry and how playing with it, it's going to hurt everybody. So get them familiar with the history and then show them the movies and just let them pick a movie. Just lay the movies out and be like, which one do you want to watch? There you go. And off you go. Doesn't matter what order, just watch them.
That's a perfect answer. Because sometimes if you overcomplicate it, you run the risk of turning people off to it, right? So, no, I love that. That's very clever. I wonder how many people this new Godzilla film, Godzilla -1, will be the first for. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. It's going to be fun.
Oh, me too. And he's just so cute. I'm sorry,
I
but I think he's
know.
adorable.
I love him already. So, Cindy, where can people find your stuff?
Oh gosh, I wrote it down. So,
Perfect.
Twitter.
There you go, everybody. You got a Twitter, a Tumblr, YouTube, archive of our own. I love it. Well, so everyone, go check out Cindy's fanfics. They're phenomenal. Go subscribe to Cindy's YouTube, Stream of Awareness. Go follow Cindy on Twitter, Gojira Spouse. Thank you so much for joining me today. Like, any opportunity I have to sit down with you and to deep dive into things and nerd out about things, I will always take.
Oh, I love being here. I love being here with you. You're adorable. I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Well, everyone, remember that Growing Up with Godzilla premieres on the first and third Sunday of each month at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Keep standing tall, and remember, the history is there for a reason. It's important to always remember it. All right. Love you all. Bye. Long live the king.